Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network for Entrepreneurs. I'm Dan Hanford, and my wife, Danae, and I interview successful people sharing stories behind tough decisions that they've had to make along their journey as an entrepreneur. Before we get started, let's hear from one of our sponsors.
Hello, this is J.V. Crum III, host of the Conscious Millionaire podcast, with a special announcement for business owners, entrepreneurs, and coaches. Do you want to create a big impact with your customers and turn it into big money? Then I created the High Performer Formula especially for you because it contains the exact steps you need to become a high performer. Now, these are the steps I've used to make over $30 million, and I'm pulling back the curtain to share the steps with you so that you can reach levels of financial and business success you may have only dreamed of before. Get your hands on the High Performer Formula today. It's my gift to you, so go ahead and download your own copy now. Just go to consciousmillionaire.com/high performer. Again, go to consciousmillionaire.com/high performer.
With us on the podcast today is Leon Streete. He's known as the lead generation coach, and he's the founder of Business Owner Elevation, a company formed to help businesses create 6 to 7 figure marketing campaigns. Leon, thank you so much for being with us. We're looking forward to talking with you today.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to what we've got to chat about today.
Well, great to have you, Leon. I want you to kind of fill us in a little bit about what you're doing right now as an entrepreneur and where your current focus is.
Mm-hmm. So the things that I'm focused on right now is helping coaches, specifically business coaches, life coaches, executive, and leadership. And my main focus is, as it said, or as Danae said in the intro, is to help them create 6 and 7 figure marketing campaigns. What I find is a lot of people out there are really skilled at coaching and in that space, but they're not skilled at marketing. And so they have a great service or product to deliver, but they don't know how to get it out to the market. And that's what I really focus on with my clients. And that's my main focus at the moment.
So I want to dive in a little bit about a tough decision that you have had to face as an entrepreneur. And maybe let's start off with one that didn't have that good of an outcome and maybe some of the lessons that you learned through that particular tough decision.
Yeah, absolutely. So around 2004, I'd set up my first business, which went pretty well. It was I'd class it as a marketing agency. We used to specialize in web design. And eventually we got more into internet marketing. And by the time I got to 2008, over here in the UK, when you go, I would say more professional, you set up a private limited company. So that's what I did. And then by the time I hit 2010, things started to go south and things weren't really working too well. And I ended up getting myself into $50,000. So I worked out the equivalent between pounds and dollars, the equivalent to $50,000 worth of debt, because what I was trying to do was get out of debt by using debt. And at the time I was playing the risk game to see, if the risks that I was taking were going to pay off. And unfortunately, by the time we got to 2010, it just didn't work at all. And it became a really pressured situation, trying to get cash in to pay my team, cash to pay bills, knowing that, we're already in an overdraft. And I was trying to keep my head above the water, so to speak, just to keep things going. And all whilst trying to put on a front to friends, family, and just people who knew me. And it turned out the way that it did. And it was just a big thing for me. I was relying on team when I should have stopped and focused on money producing activities. And so we were continuing to do the service that we were doing for our clients, but really we should have went into, gaining more new clients and upselling our existing clients. And it just resulted in an emotional roller coaster of me having to make my 3 employees at the time redundant and borrowing money from my now ex-wife to pay one of my employees their wages at the time. We just didn't have the cash. And I would say, looking back, because I always say when you look back, you can connect the dots, but when you're in the moment, it's pretty difficult. And eventually, as I look back, I realized that at the time I'd put myself in a self-induced depression where I'd created a glass ceiling on where I was going to go next. So hopefully that answers the question a little.
Yeah, I want to dive into it a little bit more too, because there's a lot of lessons that I'm just thinking about as you're talking through that tough decision. One is, taking your eye off of, getting new customers and new clients and, new acquisition or sales because you're focusing more on trying to, develop your team. And so sometimes that can happen. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you do now to try to mitigate some of these issues or, things that happened during that business that caused it to, go under?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd focus on really putting my attention into marketing because a lot of the time, especially with me and the types of clients I come across, as I said earlier, we all have a gift of delivering a service, but no matter the gift, it's our duty to focus on helping people solve their problem with that gift. So what that means is it's all about you've got to be able to create new customers, and therefore the attention and focus in any business should be on marketing and sales, because the reality is that as good as you are, you can't deliver a service when you have no customers. And so every effort in your business should be focused on marketing and sales activities. And what I would do now, what I do differently now, is I would say our attention in the business is probably something like 60% focused on marketing. And then we have 40% where we deliver on time for our customer clients and for their projects and so on. So I think that would be the biggest change.
One of the other things that I was thinking about during this is, you had mentioned that when things weren't doing so well and not doing so hot, when trying to put on a front to others that everything was doing okay.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we get into that position where everything as an entrepreneur is supposed to be all hunky-dory and we're supposed to be all happy and successful and all this. And we want to try to feel like we've got to put on this front. And, sometimes, we do that and it's okay. But sometimes in this situation, it might have been helpful to open up to somebody else, or maybe not your family or friends, but, maybe, did you have a mentor at that time that you were able to bounce some things off of?
Interestingly enough, I did have a mentor. And then, the focus, whilst it was to turn things around, I would say it was kind of too late in the day. And it was something that I learned really just keeping an eye on the numbers. And it might sound a bit ridiculous to people listening because I would probably think it would be ridiculous at the time as well. But when you're caught up in, networking, going out, connecting with people, going to sales meetings, coming back, firefighting, the day-to-day managing of client projects and delivery of services and making sure the team's okay and that they're on track, there's a point where you can't do everything. And what I understood from it and learned from it was just having clearly defined roles and people who, do the various tasks that need to happen in the business, and they're held accountable as well as me being held accountable as the business owner. And I think that's, another lesson that came out of it. And, like you said, whilst having a mentor was a great thing, I think the other thing is choosing your mentors wisely. And it was no discredit to the person who was my mentor at the time. It was just more about what I needed. I should have been more clearer on what I needed, but I think I needed to go through that whole process in order to come out the other side and actually reflect and say, that's what that was all about. And it was all to do with me.
Well, and I think it also has to do with, like you said, what type of mentor you had. But, sometimes we think, we only need one mentor for our business. But, sometimes like in this situation, it might have been good if you had a mentor that was all focused on trying to help you, get more customers and improve your sales process and things like that. And then having a different mentor that can help you with the strategic, side of your business and training your team. And then another one that helps you in kind of thinking about, growth strategies and things like that. So when you look at a lot of these athletes, there are, different positions in an athlete's, role where they have, a pitching coach, they have a fielding coach, they have a catcher's coach, they have multiple coaches for different positions. And as the leader of that organization, I think that's a key thing. And that's something we haven't talked about on the podcast yet is having, multiple mentors that can help you in multiple areas to make sure you don't keep your eye off the ball on different areas.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think some of the positions you just mentioned are true. I mean, you have things like a mindset coach, a nutrition coach. And so a lot of people look at it and think, hey, you should be able to manage it all yourself. You're the business owner, but the reality is that you don't have all the answers. And part of your journey is to gain as many answers as possible so you can bridge the gaps, bring team members into the business and know that actually you've got that part of the business covered in some type of procedure or system. And the saying goes, it says systemize the procedure and humanize the exception. It's one of the things that I've learned.
Leon, I'm wondering, now that you are a coach and you're helping others with their lead generation, this experience, do you find a lot of your clients kind of falling into the same trap, and how do you coach them through that?
I find the biggest challenge, Danae, mindset. And it might seem interesting, the fact that I'm a lead generation coach and I've, focused pretty much my attention on marketing. But the reality is that a lot of people have to break the paradigm of what they believe marketing to be to them and understand what marketing is in order to attract the clients that they actually want and wish to work with. And so for me, the first step is getting them to understand. I use this metaphor and I'll actually share it with you because it's one of the strongest ways that I get people to recognize what they're about. So when it comes to selling, a lot of people say either that they enjoy selling or they don't. And so the ones who really enjoy delivering their service, you know, a lot of those tend to say, you know, I don't really find selling a natural thing or something that I find enjoyable, but I do it because I must. So I put it like this. If there was a person opposite you who was dying of thirst and you had a bottle or a glass of water in your hand, and you looked at that person knowing that you could help them, give them the solution to their problem, to this thirst that they're dying from, and then you walk up to them and at that split second you say, oh, I don't want to be pushy. I don't think I should really, you know, push forward and recommend this just in case they say that I'm being pushy or they think I'm being salesy or they think actually they think. And the reality is that person then carries on walking by whilst that person is left suffering. That's how I look at marketing, because if you have a gift and you deliver with integrity, it's your duty to help people. So it's your duty to market your business to help as many people as you can. That's how I look at marketing.
So I want to shift gears here a little bit and talk a little bit about a tough decision that you had a really good and positive outcome. Absolutely. And some of the lessons that you learned through that one.
Yeah. So obviously coming out of the back of this business that failed, in the end, I had to liquidate the business. And so it was kind of time for reflection and where am I going to go next? And so I set up another marketing agency, but this time I put a glass ceiling on where I was going and it was self-induced. I didn't recognize it at the time. And then after about 4 years of just, you know, plodding along and just hitting mediocre results, but kind of, you know, living and doing okay, I then realized I needed to pivot. And so I pivoted in the past 4 years into this coaching space because what I recognized as, you know, my confidence grew and I was gaining some great clients is that I needed to really focus on who I was going to work with and make the biggest impact. And so I pivoted into the coaching space because I knew what it was like to have a coach and I knew what people needed to actually hear in order for them to not only have a marketing service or campaign running, but what they needed to understand and own in order to make it successful in their business. So I pivoted into the coaching space and focused pretty much on understanding marketing, like really digging in deep. And so I ended up, you know, going around the world speaking, getting mentored by some top coaches here in the UK, in the USA, and really digging into what it meant. And off the back of that, in 2015, I'd even set up my own podcast as well because I recognized I needed to learn from those people who were already successful. So I interviewed people like Grant Cardone, Bob Berg, Tom Hopkins, some real, you know, I would say A players in sales, marketing, and just the business field. And so I knew part of it would help me to leave a legacy for my children, for them to understand the lessons of what I did. But also in the business, I knew that I could make the right choices and moving forward. And because of that, and since that and the actions I've taken, I would say the lessons from it are that I'm clearer, I know where to go, and I understand the difference, which is a big one, between strategy and tactics, which a lot of people don't.
How long have you been in the coaching space now? You said about 4 years?
4 years.
4 years. That's awesome. Yeah. And how many people do you have working for you?
At the moment, I have a mix of team in my office, and then I have a range of people who I outsource different work to in the UK, in the USA, in India. It's just a mix. And that was part of one of my lessons in terms of how I would grow this business, and knowing that I didn't actually have the need for people to be sat directly in my office to deliver an exceptional service.
What are you seeing right now as one of the best ways for a coaching, client of yours, meaning that somebody who's trying to coach? What would you say is that one of the best ways to try to attract new clients for that coach?
The best way is the simplest way. And I can give you probably a couple of steps just to kind of take on board and answer that question. The first thing is really understand who's the market that you want to go into and what is the problem they have, and to make sure that the service or product you have aligns to solve that problem they have. That's step one. Step two is clearly define the niche. So what are the attributes of the person who is going to buy from you? Age, job title, industry, like really get to grips. What level of turnover or income revenue are these people at? And then really dial in your message to speak to these people from an emotional level, understanding what their resident dominant emotion is at the point of buying. most people go in with features and don't really understand what benefits are all about, or they miss out the emotion that goes around the benefit. And for me, that's the biggest point, because you must seduce the heart and you must give reason to the brain, provide the logic. And for me, that's where you get a decision. So that's really where I would say people need to focus in terms of getting results, because it doesn't matter the size, whether it's a 5, 6 or a 7-figure campaign. You go back to the strategy, the principles, and then when you want to scale things up, it's just a matter of scaling up budgets, team, resources, but all off the back of those standard principles that have stood the test of time.
Do you also teach them to do some of the things that you're doing with, as far as like working with virtual assistants to take care of some of these tasks?
I don't tend to go into too much of, exactly how, but as part of the programs that we offer our clients, we have information and lessons on how to scale your business from a systems point of view, all of the types of job descriptions, titles. Because of what happened in my business, I'm very focused on when I do something once and it needs to be done again, I document it the first time around. And so we have a lot of systems in place that when our clients are working with us, they have access to all of these systems too. So that way, it's not a matter of we just hold things back, we share, because we want our clients to be a success, even if it goes beyond the realms of marketing.
So Leon, in your experience as an entrepreneur, what are some strategies that you have used over and over whenever you're facing a difficult decision?
Mm-hmm. So the first one, and I'll say this comes back to the first business where, like I said, I put on a front. Because I put on a front, I wasn't connecting and reaching out to people. So one of the key things that I do now is speak to people. I speak to, people like yourselves. I speak to experts. I speak to people who play at a higher level, because more than likely they've experienced what you've been through, because they've pushed hard enough to take risks themselves. And therefore they know what it's like to come out the other side. I exercise, I go to the gym, I play basketball. I play football as well. I do meditation as well. That was something new that I took on about, say, maybe 3 years ago. Really starting to understand what it means to clear your mind and really focus on what it is that you want. And I write down my goals. That's probably one of the biggest changes. At the time of my first businesses, I had an idea of what I wanted to do, but now I write them down once a month in detail, and then I do weekly where it's kind of less detail. But the detail, the once a month, keeps me focused on what systems am I building to support my goals and dreams. And that's a real big change for me.
So the next thing on the list here is a series of questions that we like to call the Trifecta. These are some of your favorites of different things in business. And so the first thing we want to ask you about is, what's your most favorite technology that you use in business today that helps make your life easier?
Dan, this was a difficult question. I had to ask one of my team members saying, hey, what's the most popular thing we use in the business? Because the reality is it's probably my cell phone, my mobile phone. But in terms of, I would say, giving me leverage in my business, it's probably the technology around marketing funnels and email automation, because we have so much leverage off the back of it. We can put marketing campaigns like literally together in a matter of hours and launch them online, LinkedIn, Facebook, Google, all of the places. And I would say, just to make life easier, that's probably the biggest thing for me, the technology around marketing funnels.
All right, is there a particular funnel creation software that you like to use?
So we use a mix of ClickFunnels, OptimizePress for WordPress, and we use ActiveCampaign for email automation. So they're probably the main 3 that we use, as well as one more, which it's mainly our clients who use it, Infusionsoft.
Yes, I've heard of that as well. So the next question here is what's your favorite quote that you've heard as an entrepreneur that's really helped you as well?
Absolutely. When you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful, by Eric Thomas. And the quote for me, it hits home in a key area of not making excuses, because if you truly want to succeed, you'll want it as bad as you want to breathe. So whenever things come up and I didn't do this because of X, Y, and Z, you've only got one person to look at, and that's the person facing you in the mirror. And so that's why I like that quote.
And Leon, finally, what is your favorite book that you've read that has helped you in business or affected the way that you make decisions on a daily basis?
Okay, Danae, again, these are really difficult questions because I'm an avid reader. I could give you a top 10, but I've got 3. And I'm going to just kind of reel them off quickly. And they're all focused on marketing, just to stay on topic. So the first one is called The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. The second one is called Ready, Fire, Aim by Michael Masterson. And the third is Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson. They all link together. They're all focused on building a business that is driven by systems, that is driven by a marketing message.
I like all three of those books, and I've read all three of them. So very good picks there. Very good picks. Yeah. So what's the next thing for you right now as an entrepreneur on your vision or dream board?
It's a good question. And the biggest thing for me right now is we introduced a new coaching program this year called Elevation. And at the moment, that's my sole focus. It changes lives in the way that we support our clients. And so my goal is to take this program to 7 figures by supporting 30 coaches internationally over the next 12 months. It's already making waves, and I believe on the target since we launched it, because we have other programs, but this is fairly new. So we currently have 5 people on it. So I want to attract another 25 right now.
Awesome. Well, Leon, I really want to tell you that we really appreciate you taking some time out of your schedule to be with us today on the podcast. How can the listeners reach out to you if they want to continue to follow you or get some more information from you directly?
Absolutely. So you can find me on my website, which is leonstreete.com. And on the end of Streete is a silent E. I'm the only one that exists in the world. There is no other Leon Streete. I even did, those history checks where you check on a person's hereditary timeline. And so you should be able to find me on Google. You can also get me on Facebook and LinkedIn. And there's also podcasts that you'll find of me on iTunes, as well as this episode today.
Awesome. That's great. And we'll put all those in the toughdecisions.net show notes as well, so that the listeners can have quick links to be able to get a hold of you as well. So awesome. Again, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule, Leon. Look forward to having you on a future podcast as you continue to grow as an entrepreneur.
Guys, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and I've enjoyed my time with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email, where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.